Welcome to the Leading Vision podcast. It's an amazing time to be alive again. And of course, we're in the studio today with one of those times where we address from the wealth of experience of men and women that come share with us from their experience from their wealth of experience. And of course, today I have on set one of the usual suspects, my team. I'm talking of the big auntie of Zauzau now, like I always call her. Of course, Miss Isha. Welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, most importantly for me, it's a huge privilege. I have to have one of my fathers, one of my mentors in the house today. It has when it's very, I don't know, it's very slim for me to now begin to, because I don't even know where to start from. But then this one huge father you would love to want to listen to again and again. And we're privileged and honored as Leading Vision podcast to have my father, like I said, my mentor. He has, I could start going over his CV and all of those things. But of course, when you now hear him start speaking, you make CV for him by yourself. I'm talking of no other person but Barrister Solomon Musa. Daddy, you're welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, today, of course, we have one huge Daddy is a lawyer, so you could tell when I say it's a time to want to address from the ends of law system in Nigeria, because it's failing every day as we see. Now, we are treating this topic today that want to know from his view the law of the present day Nigeria and the world at large, because it's not only applying to Nigeria, because we have seen it fail in other mega nations and cities that the nation as Nigeria look up to. So, Daddy, given the so much that's happened from your wealth of experience, what's your view on, because there's this pressing thing that's happening today. There's this school, Al-Zar, a school in Zaria, that they flogged a child, and the child died. They beat the child to death. This thing just happened. And today is UN Day, where it's a day that is taken out to fight against violence and all about children. What is your view on this? What is the law standpoint in this? Is there no structure that is put to guide this thing, this maltreatment? It could come from any level now, but then this, given that it's UND, as a lawyer, what is your view on this, sir?
Thank you very much, Leading Vision. Thank you, Imad. Thank you, Aisha, for doing me the honor and the privilege of being here. Now, talking about some of the contemporary realities, the law may be on the pages of the books, statutes, the Constitution, and other maybe journals and other law authorities. But the major issue there is how to translate it to action implementation. That's the major issue that is there, including interpretation. Now, the second thing is, regardless of the position of the law, there are always people that will take advantage of the law to overreach, to do some things, carry out certain actions, and those actions may be actions that will amount to infraction of the law. So there are a plethora of laws that our Constitution, our extant laws, extant both domestic and international treaties have provided for the protection of the lives, not only of the children, but indeed of all humanity. The Constitution is very clear. The Constitution provides the Constitution gives adequate provision for the protection of the lives of every individual, regardless of whether you're a child, whether you are an adult, whether you are among the vulnerable people, whether you are a citizen or you are a foreigner. Every human being has a right to life. Every human being has a right to dignity of person. And so, regardless of that, it is not the fault or the paucity of or the dearth of law. The law is there to provide for the protection, particularly of the vulnerable, like children, disabled. The law has been made adequately clear. It is there. With regards to the issue of what the sad incident that took place somewhere in Zaria City, it's unfortunate. It's not supposed to be. But I'm sure you, watching some videos, reading in the newspapers, in the media, you discover that people do not have so much respect and regard to our young ones. There are several people who have children in their houses that they have turned them to punching bags, leading to premature death and sometimes very, very serious injuries. What happened in Zaria City is a very, very sad one. And I think I've not followed it up, but I know that the law will make sure that they take adequate steps to ensure that they are brought to book and to justice. I hope that happens.
Yeah.
But it is indeed very sad and regrettable.
Good. So, of course, now this happens every day. I'm glad that we're able to, by this channel, knows that everybody out there is important, regardless of whether you are a child, and this is one of the things killing the fabrics of today youth. You see people collect children they can't take care of, and then they turn them into something else. We see these instances every day. We have heard on every channel of all these social media platform where we see these things. Now there is another pressing thing, sir. This whole as there's a constitution that was added to, will I say added now, being that I'm not a lawyer, I don't know if I'm using the words correctly. 2017 that was passed into law, where that before now, when you rush a gun, maybe probably these kidnappers shoot a person. When victims run, they rush them to the hospital, regardless whether it's a private or a governmental hospitals, organizations. They don't collect these victims with the fear of probably the police or the law can come later. So what do one do in this instance, even though that is passed into law, but a lot of hospitals are still yet to apply this. They still feel you have to come with police report or the presence of the police. On this, what we want to do to make these hospitals aware that when these instances come, there is a provision in law now, I don't know if I'm correct, that you should attend to these victims and then probably maybe whatever can come later, like the police report or anything can come later.
Now, let me say this, not only in Nigeria, but elsewhere. If a person is about to drown and you are there and you can swim, you are possibly a lifeguard, and you don't intervene, it is a crime. Okay. It is a crime. Now, the first responsibility of any hospital is to provide health care.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I mean, there are people we've read a little about Florence Nightingale.
Yes.
In the Crimea War, who gave almost all her life to save the lives of human beings. I think it's more of ignorance. I think there are two reasons. One, there is ignorance, or three reasons. One, ignorance of the position of the law. Two, fear of what the outcome, the the police will do. And then number 3, I think there is one that is not altruistic, more of a selfish one. And the selfish one is most of the times the hospital will look and say, hey, it costs a bit of money for us to treat this person who has gunshot wounds. We'll have to spend a lot of money. So he's going to compensate us. Who's going to pay? Government will not pay. So because of that, they will give excuses. 1, they will say, no, you've got to bring police report. 2, they will tell you that, no, they don't have the facilities for such treatment. Go to another hospital. But the reality of it is, long before now, it has been made abundantly clear that once there is even if the person is an armed robber, he deserves immediate attention. Even if he's an armed robber, you first treat him. You don't have a right to say, no, well, we are not treating him because he's an armed robber. Even an armed robber deserves treatment. So, the police have complicated matters because they brought, I don't know where they got the law that you must, if a hospital accepts someone with injuries, gunshot wounds, etc., that it must produce police report. As far as I'm concerned, that is illogical.
Wow.
Someone is about to die, and you are asking him, when he is immobile, perhaps bedfast, and you are asking him to go to the police, go and make a report, and bring a police report. What happens if he dies? Fortunately, the Inspector General of Police, I think, gave an order, has made a decisive intervention, just I think last week. Okay. It was all over the news that all hospitals do not have to demand for police report.
Okay.
They are absolutely free. And the law, like I said, there is common law. It does not have to be in the statutes. There is common law that you must save life. That is in our extant laws. Common law. When I talk of common law, I'm talking of laws that may not be in the statute, but laws that we have inherited from Britain, that they are in books, not in statutes. By statutes, I mean legislation that the National or State Assembly has passed or have passed. So, certainly, everyone deserves treatment. Okay. Yes.
I'm glad Daddy has been able to do justice. I've learned so much today. Now, of course, the police, I'm coming for you. Now, lastly, there's this other very huge, the president just passed, the president, is Senate now, or passed a bill for the president to collect a loan, a fresh loan of $7.3 billion. And that of this money, $2 billion, is it $2 billion now? It has to be dollars, in a way to for the legislatives, the House of what have you, for vehicles and everything. And then $2 billion be taken out to get vehicles for the wife of the president. I know from a little of your CV, you are one time the Sokapo president. So you've been in the political system before. Is there a provision where the wife of the president, is there an office, is there a provision by law anywhere where the president's wife is allowed, or I don't know, an implementation where they have this right to get a vehicle for the wife of the president and to the total cost of $2 billion?
All right, let me just talk. I want to be extremely careful because, one, I'm not a politician. I was the national president of the Southern Kaduna People's Union. It's certainly a union, it's not political. Okay. I was once also the chairman of the MBA here in Zaria several years ago. I'm sure before many of you were born. And I am currently the chairman of the Southern Kaduna People's Lawyers in Nigeria. So I want to be careful. With regards to law, let me say that there is no law that recognizes the office of the First Lady. Perhaps convention, what people have been doing, but there's no such law. It's possible that such a law may or will be passed a little later, but for now, there is no such law. But like I said, perhaps convention, because those who have been presidents have, their wives have played certain roles. And some of the roles, they are not, I'm not condemning, some of the roles are actually very good because they help. One, in bringing to the limelight, because a woman will always want to focus some of the times on children, on also women, the female, etc. There's absolutely nothing wrong because they are our own mothers. But when you talk of strictly from a legal perspective, there is no such law. If it was passed yesterday, I'm not aware that such a law has been passed. With regards to budgetary allocation, again, there is no law that provides, that I know, that provides for budgetary allocation. What if the Senate decides, and I think the Senate will have a little difficulty in rejecting certain requests. And the reason is simple. Because the Senate has already approved a huge amount. I'm sure, I think it's 140 million naira per senator for the purchase of vehicles. You know, so, you see, if I approve an amount for myself and another person brings a request also, it will be extremely difficult for such a person to reject it. So it's possible. People have made a lot of hue and cry, song and dance about obtaining foreign loans, whether it's domestic or foreign. I don't think it's a problem. The major problem is at what rate? What are the conditions? If the conditions are fair, getting loan is not a problem in itself. But I think what needs to be done is to find out if these loans are obtained from outside the country, what are the loans going to, what are those amounts, those facilities, what will they be deployed for? Will they be deployed for infrastructure? If they will be deployed for infrastructure, there won't be a problem at all. But if they will be deployed for the payment of salaries and other things like that, for consumption, then that will be a problem. And let me say, before I drop this issue, Nigeria passed through a very, very challenging time for 8 years.
Yes, sir.
Those 8 years were the years of the locusts, cankerworm, and caterpillar.
Yes, sir.
Those were years where the country was almost, let me say, the country was at the brink of collapse.
Yes,
that's the truth of the matter. It was, those years were years of recklessness.
Yes, sir.
Those years were years where those in government were doing what they wanted to do without regards to the nation. They were not bothered. Our patrimony was completely shared among very, very few.
Yes, sir.
And I think what we need to do is to give the president perhaps the next 1 year and let's see what he will do. I think for now, it's too sudden to be able to determine the direction that he is going. I think what we owe for now is to begin to study, and then, but it's too early to come to a conclusion. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Aisha.
Sir, coming to your life as a lawyer, let's say, how many cases would you say that you've fought so far? How many have you won? How many have you lost? You know, your progress in the law firm.
All right, it's difficult for a person to be the one to assess himself.
Yeah.
It would be impolitic for me to say, oh, I've done so well. Let the world assess me.
Yes.
That is one. I have not really been going so much to court now. These young ones are the ones that go to court. So we sit down sometimes unless there is a very serious issue. Otherwise, if there isn't, if there aren't, in Zaria, let me start with Zaria. Like I said, I started practice many years ago, perhaps before many of you were born. I started practice here in Zaria in 1988.
Wow.
And we did a lot. And let me say, with all sense of modesty and humility, our names, or our name, my name, was all over the place. And that I give God the glory for that.
Yes.
That is why
we need to appreciate Daddy for this.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so I rose to several positions. I was, like I said, I was the Nigerian Bar Association chairman here in Zaria. I was a national also in the National Executive Council. That's at the national level. And I handled a lot of sensitive matters at several courts, won several cases. But what people from outside would always ask is, have you lost cases? Yes, I've lost cases. Yes. Rotimi Williams of blessed memory lost cases.
Yes.
Ganifa Wemi, also of blessed memory, lost cases. It's not about winning or losing cases.
Yes.
But overall, have you done what you are supposed to do? I think we handle our matters with integrity. And I want to say that all one needs to do is to go to the streets of Zaria and just ask the name. And I'm sure by the time the name is mentioned, people will tell you if there is one identity, is that of character and integrity.
Yes, sir.
That, by the grace of God, I'm not sure anybody will take it away from us and from my office. So we've done a bit. And while I was doing that, the Faculty of Law, Department of Commercial Law, reached out to me and said, hey, please, they've seen a few of my writings, and they said, please, come and join us. Of course, after prayer, I had no choice. I joined. So I also lecture in Faculty of Law. Beside practicing, I also lecture in Faculty of Law. And so that has been the journey. God has given me the opportunity, the privilege, not really as a lawyer, but also as a lawyer, to go to a few places and to do a few things all over the country. Some of these, what you are doing here, I've done a bit of this at several national TV stations and all that, and the media. I've done a bit of that, several.
Sir, what was your most challenging case?
All right, I will tell you, as a young person, there was a case, I can't even remember the names of the parties now. Okay. What happened was that there was a matter at the High Court. Now, we have hierarchy of courts. Sometimes there are cases that will start from the magistrate, some district court, some will start from customary or now Sharia court. Then from there, if there might be an appeal to High Court, from High Court to Court of Appeal, from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. Of course, after Supreme Court, you can only appeal to God.
Yes.
So this matter, I didn't handle it at the High Court. And the client that came to engage me, they won. But the other side that lost decided to go to the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal is normally you have 3 justices. At the High Court, only one judge. So at the Court of Appeal, there were 3 justices. And the other side, that's the appellants, decided to engage the service of a brilliant senior advocate of Nigeria. I won't mention his name here. And here was I, a young person, starry-eyed. I was just there. When they came, they engaged me. And when I went through the brief, they call it brief of argument, of that senior advocate of Nigeria, there are only 2 or 3 Nigerian, 1 or 2 Nigerian languages that I speak, and also, or that I understand, and also the English language. But when that man wrote, it was as if he wrote in Greek or Latin. Those languages, I don't understand them. It was quite challenging for me. All right, I don't know whether I'm permitted to say this.
Yes, you are,
So
sir.
please, do not take it the other way. I'm a Christian. So I decided to pray. Because I couldn't understand what the man wrote. I decided to pray. And when I prayed, somehow the key to unlocking what appeared to be the Gordian knot was, I just started understanding. And I read and read and read, and I was able to get a solution and answers. By the time I wrote my own reply, we adopted our papers before the Court of Appeal. And then a day was fixed for judgment. I was there. The leading judgment was given in my favor. I said, oh. The second judge said, I concurred. The third judge said, I concurred.
Wow.
And I said, a young man. My second year of practice here in Zaria, I also had similar scenario. There was one practicing in Zaria who became a senior advocate and is all over today in Nigeria. A leading voice was having a case. It was also an appeal from then area courts. And then the most senior lawyer here in Zaria was also having a case. And incidentally, the clients on the other side, they all came and engaged me. And here was I, David versus Goliath, 2 Goliaths. And honestly, each time you have cases with such people, it becomes actually quite challenging. The appeals were argued. Usually they will come from Kaduna and other places to come, the judges, And they came, argued, and then they fixed judgment for actually 3 cases on Friday. And that day I was there. The first case against the most senior then in Zaria. He was about 50 and I was just in my 20s, early 20s. Judgment was given in my favor.
Wow.
The second one, judgment was given in my favor. The third one was, well, a contemporary of mine. So I wouldn't even bother about that. But judgment was also given in my favor. Those were challenging moments, and the judgments actually announced me in Zaria and beyond Zaria. So I had quite some challenging moments. The one that I said in Court of Appeal was actually a land matter. And I made my mark from those judgments, from those cases.
Good job, sir. I think lastly, to wrap up, sir, I think there are so many speculations about the law. There's this funny comedian that said something that went viral recently. He said, are there still lawyers practicing law in a lawless nation? As a lawyer, sir, given your decades of experiences, do you still believe in the law of Nigeria? Is there still law in this nation of ours? Is there still hope for these lawyers coming, that they still have a place? And given how the whole electoral thing played out, and then even the day-to-day law thing we see for the average person that cannot afford to have a voice from a lawyer, what is your say on this to close, sir?
Now, let me tell you this. Law anywhere in the world is an expensive profession. A law anywhere in the world, that's the truth of the matter. I have somebody here who knows that some of the times people will come. I have done that in the past and I got tired. And we're still doing that. There are people that you will put in hours and hours and hours of work and they have absolutely nothing to pay you. They've done a bit of that. Elsewhere, you hardly have people that will do that. Go somewhere, just enter a taxi. Now you say, it's just like asking, are there taxi drivers in New York? When you enter the taxi, you know the meter starts reading.
Yes.
And if you take 1 hour, you know how much you pay. Then you ask, are there taxi drivers that help? Yes, there are taxi drivers that will help. But then they also have to feed their own families. That's one. Number 2, when you ask the question whether it's worth it, whether there is law because the place is lawless, it's not only in law. It's not only... Now, lawyers are not law enforcement agents. They're not. You have the police, you have other law enforcement agents that are there. So, if you talk of lawlessness, there's lawlessness in journalism. I'm sure you know that.
Yes.
Brown employ. There is lawlessness in farmers and those in the market. Yesterday we were discussing about lawlessness in terms of buying even drugs, medicines for consumption, because they're almost near one house. I won't mention where. There's someone that compounds chemicals and sells them as drugs.
Wow.
Lawlessness in the primary and secondary schools, lawlessness at home, etc. Now, regardless of that, let me say, there are some lawyers, there are some judges that are of impeccable integrity. There was a man that started here in Zaria, Justice Akas. He rose from High Court to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. There was a judgment, election petition matter, where usually there were 3 election petition matter. Out of the 3, 2 of them collected heavy bribe. Justice Akas stood his ground. And this matter went to the NJC, Judicial Council. They were investigated. The other 2 were dismissed. Justice Akas was commended. There are people of integrity. So it's the fact that some of the people who make a lot of comments, unsavory comments, are people who make comments based on emotion without an understanding of the law. A lot of the times, we have to get a proper interpretation of the law. A lot of people that make comments have not accessed the judgments, and there is a need to access the judgment, read the judgments, and understand. But regardless of that, there are bad eggs also.
Yes.
With regards to lawyers, we know there are bad eggs. With regards to judges, we know there are bad eggs. I've told you of several people who have been dismissed. Dismissed because they have not kept to the ethics and the ethos of the profession. But you see, regardless of that, there are people that can hold their heads high. And like I said, with all sense of responsibility, with all sense of humility, there are those of us that believe in character. There are those of us that believe in integrity. And we are keeping to that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I think that's a whole lot. Now, that has answered it all for me as a person. That means the law still have a place. And for you to just sit down there and just conclude that it's not about this, bad eggs everywhere. You've listened to our guest today. So please, Daddy, I wouldn't mind if you mention the name of your law firm, because you see, there's still men of integrity in all walks of life. Like I said, you have heard from the wealth of experience of Barrister Solomon K. Musa. Now, please, don't give up on the law. And to as many out there that are still lawyers, that are still coming up, and then you have this, with what you have seen so far in the last 8 to 9 years, you have given up on law. There's still hope for law. You could decide to discipline yourself and be a man, because, of course, you see, there are people, there are still a lot you can look up to. And, of course, you have heard from one of the mentors and fathers of this profession. So, sir, with all due respect, if you mention to us the name of your law firm, because I'm sure even after your days of teaching, you're still there in the office for all of these things, and we can come and also draw from the wealth of experience, sir.
All right, thank you. We practice here in Zaria, number 5, S K Musa and Co. Number 5, Rough Road, the RWAFF, Royal West African Frontier Force. So people say Rough Road.
Okay.
PZ, here in Zaria. So I came in, like I said, with one of the lawyers, Mrs. Priscilla Ngaloru, and several other people that are practicing with us.
Thank you very much.
I stay there more than when I have, only when I have lectures that I go to the faculty.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, sir. We're honored to have you on set.
And
of course, don't forget to leave your comments, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much. Have a great one.
Thank you.